Right, I'm just doing a bit to the mudguard. And what I've done, I've basically put the mudguard together, which is obviously the two side pieces. Just glued the two side pieces on. They obviously need cleaning up. But on the front mudguard of the Z1, it has like rivets going down the side. So what I've basically done is marked out the holes along the edge, and then I've got some small rivets. I'm going out and show you. From a company called Scale Hardware. Again, not sponsored by anybody. It's just to make rivets, so I buy them. These are 1mm rivets, but they do vary in sizes. So they tend to be quite a small rivet. So all you basically do is drill the holes, and then basically just slot the rivet into the hole, and then obviously glue them in. I'm not going to glue these in yet because the top of the thing wants to start cleaning up. You will have to remember though, if you're using any metal parts, you will probably have to use, well, you will have to use a etch primer. So because obviously if you use a normal primer, generally it will probably crack off the metal parts. It'll flake, so you'll probably have to use an etch primer. Plastic parts, you shouldn't have to. Obviously, you're not needing an etch primer; you just need a normal primer. The thing to remember is you have to, you might have to use 2 layers of primer, depending on the etch primer that you use. It might be a slightly different shade. Now, if the etch primer is slightly lighter or darker, and you just use that single primer and then prime the frame and the plastic parts in another primer that is slightly lighter or slightly darker, you might get a different shade of top coat. So the thing to remember is the frame won't matter because it's black, but anything that's painted in the front mudguard, the tank, the rear cowling, that's going to be painted in the blue, you have to make sure that you use a primer that's the same shade all the way through, because if you don't, you can get a slightly different shade. It can be off. So if you say use an etch primer, say I use my etch primer on this, I don't really need an etch primer on the tank. An etch primer is quite expensive, so I'll give it a light coat of etch primer just so it base covers, and then I will overcoat with just a normal primer that I'm going to use on the tank and the rear cowling, and then in theory they should all match. Because if you don't, I have had it where you've used a different primer, it's slightly darker or slightly lighter, and it's changed the top coat. Because the top coat's only going to be very thin, it can change. We'll come into all that when we paint it, but the painting side is obviously another set. But you do need the base coat for all 3 parts that's going to be, say, a blue, needs to be all the same. The black doesn't necessarily matter, because black's going to cover anything anyway. You're not going to change the shade of black, but the top coat is only obviously it's a metallic blue, and it's quite a thin paint, and you can get a slightly different shade from the colour. So just to be aware of. So this will probably have to be, I will coat it in etch primer, just to make sure they don't flake off the rivets, because otherwise it'll just crack off. Right, I'll catch you in the next video.